Among the many things that we have been talking about happy on the Kenyan Daily Report is in regards to the MOU and the prospect that lay inside the MOU between President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And one thing that we know, the National Intelligence Service has been doing the most in trying to protect President William Ruto against any plans that might be forged against his Kenya Kwanza administration after it was alleged that a coup was being plotted against the president back last year. Now, recently, the new intel that the National Intelligence Service Agency is currently sharing and revealing to the president is that a plot is currently underway and it's being forged to make sure that President William Ruto goes home. The NIS has warned of an impeachment plot following William Ruto and Amolo Odinga finalizing their power sharing deal. Now, a strategic power sharing agreement between Kenyan President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga has recently reshaped the nation's political landscape, prompted by warnings from the National Intelligence Service (NIS) about potential instability. The accord emerges following the NIA's cautionary advice to President Ruto against relinquishing the National Assembly's majority leader position to the opposition, citing risks of impeachment. This intelligence came on the heels of Raila's unsuccessful bid for the African Union Commission chairmanship, a development that further strained Kenya's political environment. Raila's Orange Democratic Movement had been advocating for significant roles within the parliament and the executive branches. In response, President William Ruto has chosen a power sharing agreement to avert political instability, allowing the ODM to secure leadership roles in pivotal parliamentary committees, including the Public Accounts Committee and the Budget and Appropriation Committee. Kimani Ichung'wah has, however, retained his position as majority leader. The deal also encompassed the allocation of additional cabinet positions to ODM members aiming to foster government stability. Complicating this agreement was a High Court ruling that reinstated the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance as the legitimate majority party, nullifying an earlier decision by Speaker Moses Wetangula that favored Kenya Kwanza. The court's intervention highlighted the constitutional importance of the majority leader's role in legislative and governmental oversight. The engagement between Raila and Ruto, initiated after protests against the finance bill last year, has garnered mixed reactions. A memorandum of understanding between the ODM and Ruto's United Democratic Alliance (UDA) is viewed by some as a step toward national unity, while others are concerned that it compromises the opposition's ability to provide effective oversight. The appropriateness of ODM members chairing oversight committees, given their integration into the government, has faced scrutiny. The MOU outlines 10-point agenda designed to tackle Kenya's economic challenges, including strengthening devolution, combating corruption, and promoting inclusivity. ODM Secretary General Sifuna has cautioned that the party will withdraw from the government if its terms are violated. Now, according to the intel that is currently being leaked, we are being told that President William Ruto was not to hand over power to Raila Amolo Odinga the way he has. But when the High Court ruled, the moment that we were heading we were heading to the AU election, and the court ruled in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga's Azimio as the majority in parliament. that is where everything was complicated for William Ruto. Now, according to the Intel Ghana, and remember, when the AU elections were happening in Ethiopia, the National Intelligence Service Director Nordin Haji was also in attendance in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, to oversee the election of Raila Amolo Odinga as the chairman of the AU. But if that couldn't happen, then they had to come up with a solution to tame Raila Amolo Odinga, because the plans had been put underway, and we all had seen how different members of the ODM party, including the minority leader Junet Mohammed, the minority whip Millie Odhiambo, and the rest of the members of ODM and the other Azimio la Umoja team had started converging, and their main aim was, if Raila Amolo Odinga loses and Ruto does not hand over half of the government to Raila Amolo Odinga, then we are going to move into court and make sure that we take up the majority roles in parliament and have Speaker Moses Wetangula kicked out. Now, with that, we can bring in an impeachment motion against the President of the Republic of Kenya. And if we do that, the impeachment motion will see the light of the day, and the impeachment motion will succeed going through the National Assembly. And if it succeeds going through the National Assembly, then there is no way that Azimio is going to be beaten by Kenya Kwanza in the Senate. So they were going to make sure that they beat Kenya Kwanza at the Senate. And if the Senate upholds the impeachment of the president, the president would have ceased to hold office. Now, President William Ruto would have relinquished his position as the president of the Republic of Kenya. And then Kenya would be forced to go back to elections again, either this year or next year. But now President William Ruto got wind of the intel of what the Azimio had started negotiating, and the secret meetings that were being called by Raila Amolo Odinga and his allies. And to tame any developing, any development that Raila Amolo Odinga would impeach President William Ruto and take up the role as the President of the Republic of Kenya, then Ruto had to call Raila Amolo Odinga to the table and come up with the right way to negotiate. And that is why even the trip that Raila Amolo Odinga and other Azimio la Umoja delegates went for in Dubai, that trip, in the recent intel we have received, it was catered for by the government of President William Ruto. I mean, the government paid for the trip. It paid for the accommodation and took care of everything, so that Raila Amolo Odinga would go to Dubai for 1 week together with his allies and family and cool down, relinquish the pressure that he was undergoing after losing the AU. Then Raila would come back home, where now they would have to sign the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, where now Raila will have half of the cabinet. He will have, he will be a co-president. Are we together? So all these was overseen by the National Intelligence Agency due to the intel that they gave to the president of the nation. But my question is, the NIS is so devoted in making sure that President William Ruto remains in power, but they are not so dedicated in making sure that the lives of Kenyans are protected, because we see invasions day in, day out, where Al Shabaab are hitting different places in northeastern Kenya. Recent invasion in Lamu. Now, instead of diverting the resources they are using to please the political elite, they have diverted the resources that were put into the National Intelligence Service by the former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, to making sure that President William Ruto remains in power, and anybody that attacks him or tries to belittle him, mm, is, faces the wrath of the law by being abducted or even disappearing and being killed somewhere. Well, it is the country we are living in. For now, that's what's up. Tell me what you think about the NIS roles in ensuring that President William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga's, MOU signing went through. Tell me what you think about it. Achia maoni kwenye comment section. See you in our next video. Remember to subscribe. This is the Kenyan Daily Report.